just saying, how have preparations been going then over the last couple of weeks for the big two games coming up?
They're going really well. As per usual, the boys are working extremely hard and have done now since they've been back in. They've been pretty much getting double sessions every single day and trying to incorporate that between a physical side of it and also a technical and tactical side of it. So so far so good, but ultimately it'll all depend on the result, and that's what will tell the tale.
And you've brought a few new guys in. Happy to have them on board.
Yeah, listen, it's always nice to get fresh faces in, and gives the squad a little bit of a lift, and it also incorporates that little bit of competition for places and keeps people on their toes. And as I say, it's always good to do.
And you mentioned this earlier when Connor signed, but Connor gives you an extra dimension to what you had last season, doesn't he?
Yeah, listen, we obviously had Connor here before, and we were always well aware of Connor's ability and Connor's talent and how much he had to offer. I think probably at that stage when Connor left, it wasn't necessarily because he wasn't a good enough player. He was probably frustrated that he wanted to get more games under his belt, and it's that old chicken and egg, and what comes with youth sometimes is inexperience, and Connor just needed to go and get some games under his belt, and I think it proved there was no ill feeling or bad feeling or anything when he went. He went with our blessing, and he went and proved himself and showed that the quality that he has and the impact that he can have in this league, and we felt it was time to try and bring him home, as they say.
Yeah, and then just on Friday, like how do you sort of view Friday? Is it a chance to get guys more minutes, or you want to obviously get them fresh for Wednesday as well? So how do you sort of view Friday?
Yeah, Johnny, it's probably an amalgamation of a whole lot of different things. There's certain things that we've been looking at and working on and trying to improve. So there'll be elements of that incorporated into the Friday night. There will also be then an opportunity to get people minutes in their legs, and then there'll also be that opportunity to get a competitive fixture or a more competitive fixture against top opposition. So it ticks all our boxes.
Yeah, I'm just looking. The Friday night's game, obviously you played in it last year. Do you find that's a wee bit more, as you say, competitive than a normal friendly, and getting you up to speed for the European games playing in a match like this?
Yeah, I think, and I say great credit to the league and both clubs for doing this, for going into Europe. We all know how difficult it is trying to get competitive fixtures or decent fixtures pre-European campaigns, and I think there's always going to be that little bit of rivalry between the clubs, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. But it'll probably have a little bit more space than playing at Ballatown or playing a Welsh team or anybody else.
Just looking ahead to Europe then, what about the draw? Obviously RFS are a team that are known to Irish League. What has changed since the last time that we sort of came across them? Like, have you been able to do much homework on them?
I can't comment on what they were like before, Stephen, because I haven't actually watched anything of what they done back when they were playing Linfield. I think they're about 21 games into their season. They're 12 points clear. I think they've about 27 goals in 8 games and only conceded about 6 or 7. So they're a really good side. They're a side that has a lot of talent. That they seem to have good strength and depth in their team as well. They make changes as games go on and keep fresh legs in their team. They have a couple of Brazilian lads in there who are quite talented. So listen, it's a really, really difficult draw, but it's one that we have to embrace and enjoy and try and make what we can out of it.
And for you personally, Tiernan, you've obviously played in Europe for the last few seasons. Has it been a learning process for you? And do you feel now you're going into these games a wee bit better equipped? And how have you found the journey in Europe?
I actually, it's my favourite part of the season is actually the European games. I love the whole kind of razzmatazz that goes with it, and the travelling and going to different countries and spending time in hotels and setting teams up and not really knowing what you're getting and trying to learn new teams and how they're going to play, and that's probably a really enjoyable part for all of us. And I think when you talk about what have you learned and how do you try and improve, you're always trying to do that. You look back at, we spent a fair wee bit of time watching Balkany and watching HJK and things that maybe we done quite well against both those teams, and things that we probably could have done a little bit better. And there's no doubt one of the big things that we need to take as not just our team, but I think as our league and our players. I definitely think that at times there's a little bit of an intimidation factor that we don't necessarily feel like we deserve to be there, and I think that's something that we have to overcome and try and embrace. That why shouldn't we be, and be confident and go out and enjoy it and give a good account to yourselves.
It's great. Cheers, Tiernan.
Hi, Tiernan. It's Graham here. You okay?
Yes, Graham, yourself?
Yes, all good. All good. Thank you. Tiernan, how important do you feel European football is for the club in terms of making it sustainable for the future? Because you've had investment, which is brilliant from Kenny, but I would imagine that Kenny's hands aren't going to be at the wheel forever in the future. So how important is it to bring in that money from European football and to keep the club at that level as you move forward?
Yeah, it's massive. I think European football is massive for every team and club in Northern Ireland. I think if you watch the league over the last number of years, it's definitely becoming more professional, and the clubs and the teams are trying to professionalise what they do and add more nights in and add strength and conditioning coaches in and add different coaches into the backroom staff and all the analysts, and all goes with it. And I think that two things will make a massive difference, and I'm not going to sit here and try and complain or make excuses or anything like that, but I think summer football will help make a difference to what we're trying to do, and hopefully try and get us further in these competitions, which will hopefully help us generate more money, which will hopefully bring up our coefficiency, will hopefully make more teams full time, make the league stronger, and I think it's a whole snowball effect. Obviously, in all of these situations, a big aspect of it is the luck of the draw, but all we can do is play what's in front of us and try and set up as best we can, try and be as organised as we can, and try and get the players as motivated and as confident as they can to go out and embrace this.
Just in the Irish League, we often talk about the full-time and the part-time divide. Do you sometimes feel that's a wee bit overplayed? When you look at the success that Cliftonville have had and how they've approached their training sessions and so forth. So, I mean, full-time football, it's clearly no guarantee of success. It's how you operate in those structures, isn't it? So do you see that as being a wee bit sort of like, because people will say Lauren and Linfield, well, they should win everything because they're full-time, but it's not always the reality when it's 11v11, is it?
We talk about it, or you talk about it, Graham? Did you say?
Well, probably more the media, to be fair.
Yeah. Listen, once you cross that white line, it's 11v11 ultimately, and I think, without being disrespectful to the Irish League in years gone by, I think you look at more and more players now who, albeit, well, there's very few teams that actually train only 2 nights a week, as it was in years gone by, and when the whistle goes, who's the first one into the bar? And I think that's all long gone in the Irish League. I think you look at the players and you look at the athleticism now that's in the league, you look at the professionalism that's now in the league. most teams are training a minimum of 3 nights, and then even the players themselves, they're a lot more of them now are using gyms and strength and conditioning coaches, and diet, nutrition's becoming a lot more serious for them. And the one advantage that we probably have, or the full-time teams that we talk about in the Irish League that we would have, is is that time together, and the maybe the pitch sessions of being able to work maybe a little bit more tactically. So it just depends on how teams structure their week and periodize their week, technically and tactically, and what they do and how they do it. I don't think there's a, maybe you're going to look at the league table and say that there is, but I certainly don't feel it. I don't feel as a manager going into games that you're playing a team that's bottom 6, so we don't really have to prepare as hard or as well, work as hard, or give as much respect. I think, and I've said this for a number of years now, I don't see any gimmies. And I think that's proven year after year in this league, that we got beat by Loughgall last year. And again, that's no disrespect to Loughgall. We get beaten, thoroughly deserved to get beat. And I think the league, as I keep saying, gets stronger and stronger. I do definitely think that, again, with the right draws, if the full-time teams, as you talk about, winning the Europe on level playing fields, going in 18 games in or potentially 21 games in, it definitely gives us, I think it gives us a better advantage to get more out the other end.
You don't mind me asking you just about one Cliftonville player you know very well, Ronan Hale. There's been a lot of interest in him. I think he's maybe 25. You probably don't feel that's too late in age to sort of go across the water. We've seen players older than that go across the water, and Ronan, obviously, you can appreciate what a smashing talent he's been. So, I mean, if there was the right opportunity, do you feel he's one of the players in the league, one of many who's probably capable of playing at a higher level if someone was just to show faith in them?
Yeah, I think if you can get as many talented strikers and players in all the other teams across the water as you can, it's definitely the right thing to do.
Can you name me any other players you feel?
I think, listen, as far as Ronan's concerned, Ronan's a really, really talented kid, really, really talented, naturally talented. And again, a bit like Connor, when Ronan was with ourselves, his ability was there for everyone to see, and his goal scoring knack was also there for everyone to see. I think probably at the time Ronan wasn't getting the game time that he wanted and felt maybe he deserved, and I think he's went and proved that if he's given the time on the pitch, he will score goals, and big goals and important goals, as he's done for us, and as you've seen, he just done for Cliftonville again in the likes of the semi-final and the final. And I've no doubt in my mind if Ronan went across the water to Scotland or one of the teams in England, if given the time and if given the opportunity to play and get minutes under his belt, I think he would do the exact same thing. And I do definitely think that there's other players in the league that would do the same.
Just on that, Tiernan, and finally for me, I can't remember a time of so many players have left our league, not just some of the really younger players. I suppose it says a lot for the profile of the league, doesn't it? And as well as the education that the boys are getting, the level of coaching they're getting, and the interest in the league, that those opportunities are there for them.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing is that how much the league as a whole has progressed, and as I say, the professionalism of the league, and more teams going full time and more teams doing more training nights and better coaching and all the things that go with it, and the gap's probably not quite as big. And I think the more we keep doing this and the more we keep getting behind the models that are there, I think that gap will start to close more and more.
Thank you. Best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Hello, Mr. Lynch.
How are you, sir?
I'm very, very well, thank you. I've got one very important question to ask you.
No comment.
When you were a player, who was the first player into the bar after the game?
Jerry Flynn.
That must have been the quickest he moved.
That's why Jerry's actually right-footed, but he always played left back so he could get off the pitch as quickly as he could.
Very good, very good. Thanks. Okay, Tiernan. One thing I want to pick up on from what the boys were asking earlier on about summer football. Clearly, you're an advocate. Clearly, you think it would help not only Larne, but all Irish League clubs competing in Europe. Kind of flip it on its head then, Tiernan. Do you think it would affect your league campaign? Do you know what I mean? If you were starting, say, I don't know, let's say April, May, you had 10, 12, 18 games, whatever it is, and then you had European football and you did well in it. Is there a concern there that it might impact your domestic hopes and aspirations?
I think what you do is you look at the League of Ireland and has it affected any of their campaigns? And I think that what they do really well down there is they work with the teams that are in Europe, and they look at alternative dates to play their fixtures, and it doesn't seem to have affected what has happened down there. Like Shamrock Rovers have now won the league 4 years in a row, and they've been in Europe obviously 4 years in a row, and they've actually went further in the competition 3 out of the 4 years in a row. So if that's anything to go, I obviously can't answer yes or no, but if that's anything to go by, then the answer's telling you no.
That's a good enough answer. Thank you. Conditions. Do you know what conditions are like out there in RFS? Because I know that Balcani was very, very hot. I don't know if it impacted on the team, but is it something you've learned as a manager and trying to input into the players, the fact that conditions can be very different across Europe?
Yeah, definitely. I think that the Latvia, it has been kind of fluctuating anywhere between early 20s and later 20s. And it definitely affects how you play. And again, that's probably the biggest thing, Stephen. And when you're looking at playing in these European games, if you're 20 games into your season, your players are all in a completely different, one, mindset, and two, physical condition. You also, if you've got 2 or 3 new players into your team, 18, 20 games in, they've now started understanding your system much better and what you're trying to do and your game model and principles and all goes with that. And again, I got to be very conscious to say that I'm not saying changing the summer football and we're going to start winning Champions Leagues or anything like that. But I just think that it definitely gives you would give you a better foothold going into games, because you would be able to approach games probably very differently. I think the weather is obviously a separate conversation in that, and regardless of how many games you're into your league campaign, the humidity and climate and all that kind of stuff's not something that we're overly used to. So that's also something that will definitely play a factor pending on the conditions that night.
Are you happy to play away first and at home second? I know you're probably going to say you want to keep it tight out there and maybe bring it back and hopefully nick something at Inver Park. I've heard this before. But really, I mean, what way, in an ideal world, would you like it to be the second game at home? Do you think it matters?
Yeah, probably. As long as you can get something from the first game, if you go and get humped, then does it really make any difference? But if you can go and get something away from home, and get to feel the opposition out a little bit, then most teams play very differently at home than what they do away. And I think if you can go there and, as I say, get something from the game, it would probably put you in a better mindset coming back. I don't think it guarantees you anything, but it would definitely help with confidence getting into the next game.
Thanks, Tiernan. You mentioned something earlier on about an intimidation factor. And I was talking to Gareth McCauley of your parish, funny enough, up at Larne recently, and he was talking about how Northern Ireland football in general, maybe we suffer from an inferiority complex when playing other nations across Europe and clubs as well across Europe. Do you think we need to believe more in ourselves? Do you think we have the ability? Do you think there is an inferiority complex or a lack of confidence, maybe? How do you see it?
I think all of the above, Stephen. And as I say, we just have been spending a little bit of time watching those European games from last year. And we pulled some of the clips off that our players found themselves in situations last year in games that they definitely, no matter what anybody tells me, you're not going to change my mind, that if they had been playing in their own domestic league, that they wouldn't have done the things that they done. And I think that's the biggest thing for all our teams. I'm not just talking on behalf of Larne here. I'm talking about all our teams. They're good players. They're good teams. We see it week in, we see it week out. And I think if we can find that belief in ourselves and that confidence in ourselves, and I think a lot of that will actually come as we do better as a league in Europe. I think that you'll find that will start to improve and it'll start to grow, and we will eventually start to think that why don't we belong here like everybody else?
Just one more, if that's okay, and thanks for your time, Tiernan and Ian. Talked earlier on, Tiernan, about doing well in Europe. Obviously, we know in the modern era it's very, very healthy and indeed important for the financial side of clubs who have switched to full-time. Don't worry, I'm not going to trip you up. Don't worry. It's not...
No. Go ahead.
I'm thinking about the football aspect of things, Tiernan, because we do listen to you, and I know that last year when you won the league, you sort of set a challenge to the boys. Well, okay, let's go and do it again. Let's go and see if we can maybe do the Irish Cup as well. So what about the challenge of Europe? From a footballing point of view, is it important? Would it mean more to you to be the first Irish League club to maybe reach group stages? Excuse me. Is that too much of a reach for me to ask you? Do you think that's too ambitious for Irish League clubs to do? I want to sort of know where you think you can take this team domestically and Europe. And then I want to ask you about your long-term ambitions as well.
I think, Stephen, I would be sitting here telling you lies, and it's not to try and trip me up or trip myself up or put a bigger target on my back or the club's back or the players' back or anything like that. We are a hugely ambitious club. I'm a hugely ambitious manager, and there's no doubt that when you're fortunate enough to win the league, that the first thing comes into your head then when you approach Europe is, can we be the first? Why can't we be the first? Whether we do it or not is another question. But it's definitely something that we talk about. It's definitely something that we think about. We don't shy away from it. We don't put it in a closet and nobody's talking about it. We very much use it in our team meetings and our analysis and all goes with it. So yeah, that's something that we would love to do. No different from what David would have wanted to do at Linfield, and Stephen at Crusaders and Brezzy at Cliftonville and all went with it. I think that's the ambition. That's the ambition for all the Irish League clubs. Can we be the first? Can we bring that coefficient up? Can we put our league on the map? And can people start taking us a little bit more serious? Because we do have good players, we do have good managers. We're professionalising ourselves all the time. We all have big ambitions of what we want to do and where we want to go, and all goes with it. So yeah, by all means, it's not something, as I say, I'm going to shy away from.
And your own ambitions?
For?
Well, like your career. I mean, I'm wondering, like, how far can Larne go? I'm not getting over. I mean, I do think that Larne and Irish League clubs can do better in Europe. Let's say, I think that's a very achievable aim. But you don't want to overreach or put over expectations on teams. But how far can Larne go, and how far can Tiernan Lynch go? Where do you want to be in 10 years' time?
Retired, Stephen, with my arse on a sun lounger in Spain somewhere. No, listen, I don't make any bones about, and I'm probably no different from any other manager in the Irish League. If you work hard every single day and you put the hours in that you do, and you make the sacrifices that you make, that if an opportunity ever came along, that you'd be stupid not to look at or snap arms off or whatever it may be, depending on the opportunity. So I look at it, it's very simple for me. If the opportunity came along, would it be something that I would be interested in doing, pending the club, pending the opportunity? Yes, 100%. I've never lied to Kenny about that. I've never played that down, 1,000,000%. If it doesn't, then Larne Football Club's certainly not the worst place to be. I think this is as professional as it gets, and the ambition that they have, and the people that is connected to the club. I think you see that now on a daily basis, and what we've done now over the last number of years. It guarantees you nothing. You're only as good as your last game, and all the stuff goes with it. But if that's where I'm at with it.
That's brilliant. Spoke very well. Thank you, Tiernan. Best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Tiernan, how's things? All right?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Not too bad, not too bad. Just to sort of pick up on a couple of things from following up from what Stephen said there. I suppose in terms of European record, the first year in the Conference League, and you in 3 rounds of it. Last year, very unlucky against the HJK in the Champions League. What constitutes this year, specifically this year as a standalone? What constitutes success for Larne this year? Is it group stages?
I think probably group stages is utopia. I think that's the way we'd be looking at it, and I think Linfield proved a couple of seasons ago that it's not unachievable.
The second leg will be the first time Champions League football has been played at Edinburgh Park. How important is that in terms of, as a club in general, is from the progression of the club, obviously the disappointment of not being able to do it last season, but now you're going to be packed out Edinburgh Park in a Champions League game, which was the dream, I suppose, but for the likes of Kenny and yourself, whenever Kenny took over. How important is that, regardless of how the first leg goes?
I think Kenny has a brass band playing the Champions League music that night. Listen, I think I don't get overly carried away with things like that, but that's those types of occasions are very much for the supporters and the fans, and who went through a lot of dark days at Edinburgh Park and followed the team when they weren't obviously able to play Champions League football, or the kind of shiny, bright new stadium that they have now. And so I think that's more for the fans and for the supporters, that they can come out and brag about their club and playing Champions League and all goes with it. From my end, I see it as a home tie, and I see it as us knowing our own venue and our own pitch and all goes with it. So that's where I like to take the advantage of.
Just lastly for me, just in terms of tomorrow night, obviously the Charity Shield, you touched on earlier that you'd be obviously working on things that you've been working on in pre-season, a few tweaks here and there, maybe a mix and match of a team and things like that. But whilst it's not a fully competitive game, it's obviously more competitive than your normal pre-season games, and there is that rivalry, I suppose, between yourselves and Cliftonville. But how important is it going into the European games to come out with, yes, ideally a positive result, but a positive performance, and this is your last opportunity to do that going into the RFS match?
I don't think the result is and this won't be going out before the players hear this or anything, will they? No. I think it's very much the performance. I think that you're able to see the things that we've been working on and trying to implement. That's the big thing. There's always, as I say, situations beyond your control that can affect the result. Obviously, we go into every game that you want to win. But our big thing in this and our preparation going into this tomorrow night, and team talks going into tomorrow night, will all be about our preparation and the things that we've been looking at and our principles and what we're trying to implement, and hopefully we'll see improvements in those.
100%. Thanks, Tiernan. Best of luck tomorrow night and next week.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Cian. How's it going?
How are you doing? All right?
We're all good, thanks. Yeah. So obviously, two big games coming up here on Friday and Wednesday. But just looking forward to Wednesday. How excited are you to be back on the Champions League stage?
Yeah, obviously something we're looking forward to. Obviously, back in a few weeks now, obviously in preparation. So looking forward to getting started.
Are those the sort of matches that the group have been looking forward to the most throughout the season?
Yeah, obviously that's what you strive for. The start of every season is to try and qualify for Europe. So it's obviously something we set out to do every season, and obviously something we can look forward to again.
Do you take a lot as a group from 12 months ago, whenever you came so close against HJK? Do you take a lot from that?
Yeah, of course. Look, it's obviously we fell just short last year, but I think we can take great confidence from it and kind of know that we can compete at that level. So obviously we'll go in with the same confidence this year.
And then obviously a few players have been added to the squad over the last few weeks. I've been happy to see some new faces into the team.
Yeah, I know a couple of additions obviously this year, so obviously they've just been getting in and getting settled, and we've just welcomed them in, and so we're obviously they're raring to go as much as us, so yeah, hopefully they'll hit the ground running.
Cheers, thanks very much.
No problem.
Hey, Cian.
How are you?
Not too bad, cheers. As we all know, it's been an incredible journey for Larne over the last number of years. Winning back-to-back titles is up there with the best, but progressing in Europe now seems to be a target. And how much of there's a desire in the players to try and get as far as possible and ultimately be that first club that gets to qualify for the group stages out of the Irish League?
Yeah, I think that's ultimately the end goal for us. I think obviously last year we fell just shy, and we probably let ourselves down the year before as well, if looking back. But I think, like I said just previously there, we can take great confidence from how we fared against Helsinki last year, and obviously Linfield obviously going so close as well. I think we can take inspiration from that as well, obviously the last couple of years, so it's like something we're striving to do.
Tiernan was talking earlier about maybe being a bit of an inferiority complex amongst Irish League clubs in Europe. Is that something you've spoke of as a group, to try and say we are confident we can progress, because given the second leg against HJK last year, you were very lucky.
Yeah, look, I think inferior. I think obviously because the league obviously isn't out there in the public domain. Obviously the mainland UK obviously dictates obviously all the publishing over here. But I think look, we're quietly confident, and we kind of go about our business the way we do, and we're obviously quite confident internally that we can go away and get a result.
And having the games at home this year is obviously a big boost for you as well.
Yeah, I think that'd be massive. Obviously, it was slightly different last year for obvious reasons, but I think having obviously our home support behind us at Inver this year will hopefully make a big difference, and they can all get behind us.
That's great. Thanks, Cian.
No problem.
Hi, Cian, are you well?
How are you?
Well, okay, thank you.
Good.
What would it mean for you personally? I'd imagine it must be very proud. Captain the club in the Champions League game as well, Denver Park as well. So must have been a lot for you personally.
Yeah, no, look, it's a great privilege, whether it's Champions League or normal league game, whatever it is. I think to captain any side is a great privilege and something I'm immensely proud of. So yeah, and again, something that I look forward to obviously next week.
And just how much game ready do you think the guys are going to be? Because I know Tiernan spoke about the advantages of playing competitively over this time of the year. I think this team you're playing, they're well into their season now, so you have to sort of like work your way up fitness wise to be competitive with them. Do you feel that is a particular challenge for you?
It probably is to an extent. Obviously I think they're 16, 17, 20 odd games into their season, so obviously they're match fit. We haven't got that luxury obviously going in. That probably let us down last year, obviously going into extra time and whatnot, but I think, look, we've been in the best part of 4 or 5 weeks now, and I think the training we've done and the session or the games we've played, and I think the lads are starting to feel fit now, so hopefully that shouldn't be too big an issue.
And do you think, sort of going into next season, do you think motivation will be key? Because I suppose if you're back-to-back champions, you have to always keep that desire and hunger to keep on winning. And I'm sure what's the opposite appetite for you to keep going. But if complacency was ever to creep in, you've teams queuing up there to take the big prizes off you. So you wouldn't have any concerns about the mentality and the motivation that the boys are going to show next season?
No, that's the last thing I think I'll be worried about here. I think obviously there's huge competition for places within, so I think if complacency sets in, you're out the door, so to speak. So I don't think anyone can kind of rest on their laurels, and I think obviously teams, like you say, will be strengthened this year, and obviously looking to push us all the way, and obviously hopefully we can retain it again.
And you just get a sense that there's a greater professionalism in the league, which is going to help when you're competing with top clubs in Europe as well.
Yeah, I think so. Look, I think the continued investment will only continue to help the teams in the league, and obviously I think ultimately for the whole league it's to try and start competing in the European competitions and qualifying for group stages. So the more investment that can come in obviously goes into the infrastructure and coaching and whatnot, so hopefully we see more of that and obviously hopefully qualify.
Okay, best of luck.
Thanks.
Lovely, Mr. Bolger. How you doing?
How you
Good
doing?
to talk to you.
And likewise.
Going to sort of come at it a slightly different way, Cian. You spent 11 years in England. You're from Kildare, spent 11 years in England. Am I right in thinking that the first time you played in Europe was when you joined Larne?
Yeah, that'd be correct, yeah.
I'm just trying to wonder, like, when you were growing up as a lad in Kildare, did you ever hear of Larne? Did you ever think that you'd be playing Champions League football for an East Antrim port town when you were growing up?
No, that's probably something that was on the agenda, on the script. But look, football always springs up these surprises, and obviously now that I'm here, it's obviously something that I'm very proud of to be a part of.
Well, when you were leaving Northampton, or when the proposition first came, did you think it was a risk at all, Cian? Was it something that you had to think about, joining Larne and Tiernan's project and Kenny's project as well? And has it been a satisfactory move?
Yeah, no, it was a risk. Obviously, we decided to come home. Look, it was one for football reason, but primarily it was down to personal circumstances that we decided to come home from England. But once I kind of sat down with the gaffer and Kenny, and obviously they got their vision across, it was obviously something that I was excited about and wanted to be a part of. So obviously there's no regrets on my part now.
And as has been said earlier on, Cian, you're the captain of the team now. So you're a leader. And you're a warrior as well. I'm looking at photographs of you online, did a bit of research, and you've got blood all over you in one of the games. Is it different playing in Europe? Is it different? I mean, talk about. What I'm trying to get at here is: are they cleverer in Europe? Are they cuter in Europe? If you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, I think look, it's a different style of football. Do you know what I mean? I think even when I came home first, coming into the league, it was a bit of a shock for me how kind of physical and direct it was, and I think going into Europe, it's a different style of play, so it's kind of more of a game of chess more so than anything, and it's more of a concentration, and you're going to have to be set out right, because obviously the players are a different profile. They're obviously more technically and small and agile, and whereas the Irish League's a bit more direct, so to speak. So yeah, no, it's something like it's a completely different style, but something we enjoy.
Which do you prefer?
No, look, it's a great experience obviously playing it's in Europe, so it's a different style of football. But look, it's just obviously we're in a privileged position, so to play any sort of football. So no, we'll take any.
Okay, and sort of getting towards the end. Thanks, Cian. Tiernan mentioned earlier on that it was it has been a learning experience playing in Europe the last couple of years. Again, I refer to the fact that you're the captain and a leader in the team. There are some young players. Do you feel with your experience in you that you have to manage the occasions of playing in Europe as much as the opponents? And also I'm talking about, like, I'm mindful of the heat in Balkany last year. I've talked to some of the players that said it was absolutely unbelievable. Are those the sort of things you have to have your squad prepared, particularly the young players that you're maybe taking under your wing, likes of Aaron Donnelly beside you, for example?
Yeah, no, I think so. Look, obviously, I was injured last year at Balkany, but obviously, like you say, speaking to the lads and that, you've got to try and manage the game as well, especially away from home in them conditions. You can't just go out and kind of play our normal brand of football, as per se, like high tempo, high press kind of football, because you'll gas out pretty quickly. So you've got to be a bit more methodical with your approach. And it's like you say, we've got a young squad, so sometimes you kind of have to try and keep the reins on them and try and guide them through it.
Finally, just your overriding sentiment looking forward to the European Games, RFS. Excitement, anticipation, fear, trepidation, ambition. What are your sentiments?
Look, we're looking forward to the occasion. I wouldn't exactly use the word fear. I think we go into the game respecting them, but I think if you go in with fear, you're on a hiding to nothing, to be honest with you. So you got to go in and respect the opposition, but with full confidence that we can kind of go and get a result. Obviously, it's something we're looking forward to taking part in. But look, it's something we'll enjoy the experience. But we're not there just to take part, we're there to go and get a result.
Thank you, Cian. No fear, Bolger. You've been brilliant. Thank you very much, and I wish you well.
Thanks, cheers.
Thanks, Cian. I can't believe you didn't say we're not here to take part, we're here to take over. Surely.
Just don't tell it. I didn't want to give you that punchline.
That's been used a few times. In terms of just last year, I mean, the learnings that the squad, not maybe just as individuals, but as a squad, as a club, what learnings have you taken from last year, albeit against different opposition, going into the RFS matches this year?
Yeah, I think if we look back at last year, we probably paid a little bit too much respect to them going into the game, and obviously then we realised coming away from the away tie we can compete at that level, like you say, at Champions League level. So it's like I said earlier, it's kind of going in. Yes, you respect the opposition, but if you go in and believe you can get a result, like we're more than capable of getting something from the game. So I think it's like you said, that's probably the biggest takeaway from last year.
Tiernan said earlier, to get the utopia was the word he used, would be to get to the group stages of European competition and become the first Irish League club to do it. And with, I suppose, the way that the European competition has evolved over the last few years, it gives you more opportunity, I suppose, to do that. Is that realistic this season?
I think so, yeah. I think obviously, like, if you get through obviously the first round of Champions League qualifying, you're guaranteed that Conference League group stage or the last qualifying round for group stages. So I think, look, is it realistic? Yes. Like, you look at Linfield, obviously a couple of seasons ago, they were a kick of a ball away, do you know what I mean? So it's something that is obviously realistic and something we're striving to do.
And just lastly from me, Cian, just on tomorrow night, obviously the Charity Shield. It's a sort of in between, if you like, the competitive stuff and the friendlies, the pre-season friendlies. How important is it to come out with a good performance and, even just from a psychological point of view, a positive result going into the RFS games?
Yeah, no, obviously, look, it'll be a tough game. Obviously, they're a good side, so it's something that we can, like you say, it's a kind of in-between friendly, but look, it's a competitive game at the end of the day. Obviously, they're going to come and try and win, and we want to win the game. But like you say, we're trying to get fully prepared for next week. But obviously, it'll be tough. I'm kind of repeating myself here, but no, you use it as preparation, but also, you know what I mean, there's a trophy at the end of the day, so you kind of want to go out and win the trophy.
Cheers, Cian. Don't worry, I can edit that answer.
No problem. I kind of started mumbling there. I was like, I'm going around in circles here.
No, you're right. Best luck next week. Thanks very much.
No
Appreciate
worries.
it.
Cheers, guys. Thanks.